Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my January wrap-up. So I am slowly getting back into the swing of things and making sure I get you the monthly content as it happens. We're a little bit late on January, but by the end of February, we should be up to date with all our stuff. So here we go, let me wrap up the first month of 2026. I didn't have the best reading month in January, but I think I can use the excuse that I moved countries. I only found out the end of December that I was moving, and I had moved by the end of January, so I was a little bit busy. I was also in the office pretty much every single workday, and that really cut into my physical reading time, but it did help me read some audiobooks. So in January, I read 7 books, which totaled 2,668 pages. That meant on average, I read 95 pages per day, and the average length of the books I was reading was 381 pages. Of the books I read, 2 of them were physical reads, 4 of them were via audio, and 1 was an ebook. And the ratings I gave were as follows. I had 1 1.5 star book, 3 3-star books, 1 3.5 star book, and 2 4 stars. So the highest rating I gave this month was a 4-star, and the average rating was 3.1 stars. Never mind, scratch what I literally just said. 2 of the books I read were physical, 3 were audio, and 2 were ebooks. There's one I got a little bit confused, but there we go. Those are the accurate stats. So starting from the bottom and working our way up. The book that I gave 1.5 stars was Crossed by Emily McIntyre. I was reading all of the Never After series. I thoroughly enjoyed the first 3. I didn't enjoy number 4. This book just genuinely, I disliked it. I actively disliked it. The world is against me today and all my camera batteries are dead, so I'm gonna see you in about 25 minutes when I have a charged battery. Okay, completely unexpected break for me, but it's been half a second for you. This book is a retelling of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but it's supposed to be like a spicy, dark romance retelling, and I actually just found this one really disturbing. I like a weird book. I always love a weird, creepy, disturbing book, but unfortunately, this one was just disturbing to the point that it made my skin feel weird. There was a lot about women, the value of women, and women's bodies that just made me feel weird. It rubbed me up the wrong way. I didn't enjoy this book. So from now, everything is fine. 3 stars for me is an absolutely fine rating. There was nothing great this month, but everything was kind of fine or good. The first fine book was The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. I gave this 3 stars, and I've had a very good relationship with Beth O'Leary books. I gave The Flat Share and The Switch, I think both 5 stars. This one was fine. It was a romance story about a couple who they had a really messy breakup, and then a couple years later, they are both trying to get to a wedding when they get in a car accident with each other, and then they share the car up to the wedding. They're driving from down south all the way up to Scotland, and it's a bit of a long drive. They are forced together. I guess it's second chance, forced proximity if you want all the buzzwords. It wasn't like anything amazing. If you enjoy Beth O'Leary books, I would say give it a go. There's no harm in this book, but it just didn't do anything very special for me. There was nothing that made me like kick my feet in excitement, but it was fine. Another one that was fine was XOXO by Axie O, and this one may have suffered with it being the book I was reading around the time I was finishing packing. I may have been a little bit distracted, but this is a YA romance following a K-pop star. So we have a young couple who meet in a Korean karaoke bar in California, I want to say, and she doesn't know that he is a famous K-pop singer. She doesn't recognize him. It's not really her cup of tea. But then she goes over to Korea to spend time with her maternal grandmother, and when she gets enrolled in this specialist music school, the guy is there, and that's where she finds out that he is a celebrity. A lot of people really love this book, and I was concerned that I wasn't going to love it because I'm not a massive K-pop fan, but I really feel like that didn't detract from it at all. It was actually just as if they were a famous country singer or pop singer or whatever, so that didn't really detract from it. It was still the music environment, which I really like. Unfortunately, this book again just didn't make me kick my feet. It didn't make me completely obsessed, but it was good, so I've left it with 3 stars. I do think it did suffer from the time I was reading it and my mental state state and capacity at the time, but it was a completely fine book. And then the third book that was fine was Baby Mine by Kennedy Fox, and this is a book written by one of my favorite romance authors of all time. I say that because I have one book that I love by them. So I decided to give this one a go. It was on my Kindle, and this was actually the book I was reading on the day I moved, and the days leading up to it sitting in my parents' house like stressing about everything that was going on. So it had to be a decent book to get me through and make me not give up on it. But this is a story about a couple who meet in a bar. There's a girl in the bar and the bartender, and he really likes her. But while he is working and serving drinks, she ends up getting with his roommate, who is out on the dance floor and trying to pull girls, and he accidentally pulls the girl that his roommate is interested in. But at that point, it's too awkward to address the situation, so he kind of ignores it. But then his roommate and this girl get in a full-blown relationship, and he is stuck watching it, even though he was actually interested in her to start with. This book, like, it's good. The actual story is pretty moving. I say that it's just a smutty romance, but with a bit more of a contemporary story, so I did really like it. The reason why I couldn't give this book any higher is I didn't realise it's not really a duology, it's a duet. Like, you need to read the second book to actually get a finished item from book one. I'm not saying I'm never going to read it, but as someone who just wanted to read that one book, I didn't realise and I didn't know that we weren't actually going to get an ending. It was basically, it cut off mid-chapter and you need to read the second book to actually have a finished story. It seems today's lunch break was not suited as the right time to film this video because IT have got me pinging backwards and forwards. However, Baby Mine could have been a 5-star read. I genuinely feel like the whole story, presuming what's going to happen next in the second book in the duet, I mean, it could go completely differently, but if it stayed at the same pace, the same excitement, then I think it could have been a 5-star read. But knowing it's just half a book, 3 stars. It was fine. It could have been great. Then my 3.5-star read is It's My Life by Stacey Ramey, and this is an interesting one. I wanted to give it a higher rating. This is the book I actually read on my travels. I started reading it the day I moved and finished it on the second plane. This is a story about a girl with cerebral palsy, and the actual storyline is very moving, and that's why I wanted to give it higher. This girl has been going through treatments for her whole life, and she is actually trying to get medical emancipation from her parents, and that is actually the point of the story that I feel like should be advertised. It's not really in the description, but that is the moving part of the story, and that is why I would encourage people to read this. The part of the story that is sold is about her trying to win over a guy's favour, and she's a teenager. Yes, she's going through all this with her cerebral palsy, but also she is interested in a guy and she wants him to like her back. So that part is a little bit more YA contemporary romance style, and then the medical stuff is reminiscent of books that I enjoy, like 5 Feet Apart or Midnight Sun. So I wanted to rate this higher because I actually feel like that medical side of it was very well done. Obviously not speaking from experience, but it did feel very authentic and just very moving and emotional. The writing style I just really struggled to fully engage with. I didn't absolutely love it. I was liking the story that was put across, and that's why I continued reading it at such a speed, but it wasn't one that I just was absolutely obsessed with, if that makes sense. The story itself, again, it's a very annoying one where it could have been 5 stars in my opinion, but just something about the way it was written didn't really make me fall in love with it. So 3.5 stars, but I would recommend it. And then, can you believe it, we're actually on to my best books, which only got 4 stars this month. The first one is Pen Pal by J.T. Geisinger, and this is a dark romance with a bit of a twist. So I have learned that J.T. Geisinger books have a twist. I read Perfect Strangers in 2024, and it was one of my favourite books of the year. This one, it was good, don't get me wrong. I definitely liked where this story went. I liked the overall story. I feel like particularly if I hadn't read Perfect Strangers, I might have been a little bit more like gobsmacked, oh my god, this is amazing. But the actual, like, it's not that exciting. I'm talking around the book so I don't spoil it, so I'm kind of like mumbling my own words. So this is a romance book where the main character, her husband has recently died in a boating accident, I think. And she's in this old house, she's trying to fix it up, and nobody's taking the quotes. Everything's a little bit too broken. So she waits and somebody shows up who is kind of like a fix-it-all handyman, and she starts a relationship with him, but she feels a little bit awkward about it due to her husband's death, and she kind of tells him she's going through a divorce. It's all a little bit confusing. The book is good. I'm giving it 4 stars. I liked it. However, it's told in a very confusing way, and I think it's meant to be told in a confusing way so that you're confused, but it just pushed it a little bit too far, in my opinion. Like, I was a little bit too lost, to the point where it was getting irritating rather than intriguing. So if it would have fixed that irritating versus intriguing line, it could have been a 5-star read, but I just got slightly too irritated to give it higher than a 4. But I did really like it. And then, last but by no means least, my favourite book apparently of January of 2026, starting the year off not too much on a high because it wasn't 5 stars, but I finally read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And this is a book that I'd been putting off for a really long time. I'd heard more mixed reviews as time went on, but I had this absolutely stunning copy and I wanted it to be a book on my forever shelves. What I have now actually done is passed it on to a friend so that she can keep it on her shelf. She's a much more intelligent reader than I am, and she's 17 years old. But besides that point, this book is kind of a nothing book, and I mean that in the most respectful way. It's a book where not a crazy amount happens. So we're following 2 friends who are video game developers, designers. They're into that world. That is not something I know anything about whatsoever, but it was written in a way that I found it interesting. There's a platonic friendship between these 2 people, and as they develop in their careers, they're releasing games, they're having relationships outside of this that you're learning about. There are health problems that come up. Like, it is basically 2 people living their life but designing games, and we hear about the games. It's completely different, but in my head it's like a Sally Rooney book. There's nothing actually happening. It's just, I don't know what I describe this type of book as. Is this what a literary fiction is? I don't know. But it doesn't feel completely in that genre. It's a nothing book. Nothing's really happening. But I was really engaged with these characters. I wanted to know everything about their personal lives. I wanted to know how they grew, like how their relationships developed, who they were meeting, what was happening, what their conversations were. I just wanted to know everything. It really, again, I've said this in the past couple of wrap-ups, but it occupied my brain in a time where my brain was hard to occupy. And I have to give those sorts of books credit, because there has been so much going on in this little head of mine. I have genuinely moved continent within a month's notice. A month from the day my visa was approved, I lived in a different country. So anything that could hold my attention for longer than 10 minutes really deserves the credit this month. Like, I was not going to be the easiest reader to impress. So the fact that this book completely held my attention, I had to know everything about these characters' lives, it needs the credit. I would probably recommend this book. I think it was pretty good. I don't think it was the best thing I've ever read. I understand why people love it, but also it wasn't something that I'm screaming from the rooftops telling everyone to read. I didn't really care about the games they were developing, but there are some things they talked about where I was like, oh, that's really a cool idea, you know? Like, it was just, it got in my head enough for me to think that these are real people doing real things. So 4 stars. I apologise for the rambliness of this video. This was probably a little bit all over the place. I have got, as I keep saying, and I will stop saying eventually, I promise, there are just things going on. So me sitting down and filming a video talking about the books I've read just probably isn't the easiest thing in my brain right now. But I am trying to get back into a routine. I am trying to get back on top of everything. So thank you for being along for the chaotic ride. If you had any opinions on any of these books, please feel free to share them down in the comments. I would love to chat to you about them. Let me know what you were reading in January, what your favourite book was, and if you have any recommendations for me. But for now, I will wrap this video up so I can stop waffling. Thank you so much for watching this one. Again, I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!